Perhaps the easiest side job any college student can do is house sitting. All you had to do was stay at a house for the specified duration and complete several necessary chores, such as cleaning the house, restocking up the pantries, receiving parcels and mail, and above all, making sure there were no break-ins and robberies. I had already made a name for myself as a well-rounded house sitter, that in the span of only 4 months, I have house sat at least 12 houses, 3 of which were returning clients. But this story isn't about my house-sitting prowess, but rather the 13th house I sat and what transpired there. I received a call from a woman who needed her house taken care of while she was on vacation. "I'm going away for the weekend," she said over the phone. "Would it be alright if you watched the house from October 30th to 31st? "I have no problem with that," I replied. On October 30th, I made my way to the address. As expected, it was huge. The woman who called me gave me a brief tour of the house, and then provided me with a list of instructions. "You can help yourself with whatever you want from the kitchen. You can watch TV, and you can even use the Wi-Fi and the pool. But," there was always a but, "under no circumstances are you to go to the basement." "Why?" I asked. "Just so," the woman said, as though she were in a hurry. There was one thing I learned. It's to not ask any questions regarding the client's house-sitting instructions. Afterwards, the woman thanked me once more before heading out for her vacation. I glanced at the door that led to the basement. I wondered why the woman didn't want me to go down the basement. I brushed it off and had my dinner. I had nearly finished my dinner when I suddenly heard a sound emanating around the room. I looked around, wondering what made that sound. I brushed it off as just an animal or a bird and went back to watching TV when I heard it again. Only it sounded more guttural. I was officially unnerved and decided to sleep it off. I made my way to the bedroom and got into bed. I was probably hearing things because I was completely exhausted. I closed my eyes and tried my very best to go to sleep. Suddenly, I was awoken by a very deep and terrifying moan. I opened my eyes and saw a strange sight in the corner of my room. Standing in the corner was a tall, lanky man dressed in what looked like a shabby suit, covered in bloodstains. He had a contorted face, and he was holding out his hands as if asking for help. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I bolted out of the room, wondering who that man was and how he got in. I took deep breaths and brushed it off as just a nightmare. But for the meantime, I decided to sleep in the living room. The next morning, I was having my breakfast, but the image of the bloody man just wouldn't go away. I began to walk around the room, trying to block it out, when I passed by the door that led to the basement. Suddenly, I heard what sounded like banging on the door. I drew closer, and then I noticed what looked like a stream of blood seeping through the door, followed by an anguished cry for help from behind the door. I called the police, and they immediately came over. I told them about the seeping blood and the anguished cry coming from the basement door. I didn't mind if I was going to break the client's rule. There was something going on in the basement. We opened the door and entered the basement. We were met with a putrid smell. There was blood all over the walls, and the unmistakable smell of rotting flesh. After looking around, the police and I found a dead body in the corner of the room. I looked at the body and gasped. I recognized the body as the bloodied man I had seen the night before. What was going on? I then learned that the man was my client's husband, who had been reported missing for almost 2 days. The police then learned about the huge insurance policy that my client would receive in the event of her husband's death, which resulted in her getting arrested the very next day. Suffice to say, I didn't house sit for the next couple of months.